case you haven't noticed, I hate weeds. I try to keep everything weed clean. And before I can spray the weeds, I had to blow the leaves off the driveway so I can see where the weeds are. Now I got a mixture of a Roundup Pro concentrate. I mix it with water. I have about 2 gallons in here, maybe a little over 2 gallons. So I'm going to pump this up and get to spraying some weeds. Now I usually spray this stuff in the morning. Sunny day, that's the best time to do it. No rain, because you want it to soak into the leaves, and no wind, because when you spray this stuff, if there's an overspray and the wind blows, it'll kill your grass too. So you got to be real careful with this. And the other thing is, you don't want to get it on you. It's highly dangerous and cancer causing. You just got to be real careful when you use this stuff. So I'm going to get started and just start spraying some of these weeds. Well, now that job took up at least the better part of an hour of my day, now I can move on to some more stuff that I would rather enjoy doing than spraying weeds. Something I've been wanting to do for a while. I told you I was working on detailing the bike, but I got to clean these back wheels. And so I got it up on the lift where I can actually get to them and, you know, spin them around. See if I can get that aluminum cleaned up a little bit on both sides. Yeah, maybe even my sprocket while I'm at it. So that'll keep me busy for a little while. Alright, I've got my stuff ready to go here, I think. I got a bucket of fresh water to rinse. But I've got this wheel and tire cleaner I'm going to use first. I picked that up at the Dollar Tree, of all places. And I've looked for it again because it worked really good on the car wheels. Takes the brake dust off and everything, like right now. So I'm going to see how it works on my aluminum wheels. It says it's supposed to be okay for aluminum. And then I might even have to take some steel wool to that or something, because it's been a while since I've touched it. So yeah, I think I'm going to get started on this. I can see the brown rolling off of there right now. So it's doing something. I mean, you can see the black rolling off of there, and look at the floor. Yeah. That's just coming right off of that rim, so it's a job that needed to be done, that's for sure. It already looks better, just what a little bit I've done already. After scrubbing and scrubbing, you know, I can't get this, that's like underneath the finish, and you see some pitting there also. I mean, you can see it better down there. I don't know that there's a whole lot more I can do. I can try taking some steel wool to it. It's gonna. I mean, I can polish them up. It'll just be tons of rubbing and work. So that's the only drawback to these aluminum wheels. Now, you know, I've been asked before to these solid wheels, because you see these don't have any spokes or anything. They're just solid wheels. Do they have like wind resistance when you're on the highway? Do you feel it like blowing your bike? And I guess my answer to that is no. I mean, compared to a bike with spokes, I mean, look at all of the area here where the wind is going to push against the side of your bike, aside from just the 2 wheels. So those two wheels aren't going to make enough of a parachute, that's going to really move your bike any more than a bike with spoked wheels, or open rims. So the argument about that, um, I don't go for it. I think these wheels, they're just like any other motorcycle wheel, as far as crosswinds go. And if you're on any kind of a bike and you hit crosswinds, you're going to feel it. I don't care if you're what kind of wheels you have. You're going to feel that crosswind hit you, and you pretty much expect that. But as far as the difference between solid wheels, spoked wheels, my argument is that there's no difference. And if there is, it's so subtle, you'd have a hard time, proving it. Well, I put a lot of elbow grease into that. I tried putting some steel wool on there. Those pits are under the finish, and they're not going to come out unless I completely rub for days to get that finish off, to polish that aluminum. And I don't have that kind of time. But see, even in these little holes here, there's black in there, and I just can't get it out. I've scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, and I'd have to have like a Dremel with a little wire brush thing to poke in there, I guess, to get those cleaned. And boy, a lot of time-consuming work just for a motorcycle that, when I put back out on the road, it's just going to gather more grime. But in the meantime, I can keep polishing up the chrome and keep everything else clean. I don't know. It can always take more, I mean, you clean it and then you look at it and you see something you missed. I mean, look at all the detail, little nooks and crannies and everything that you have to deal with on cleaning these motorcycles. And, I like to keep my motorcycle looking good. I like to keep it looking new. But when you ride it a lot, it's pretty much impossible. I can see now my back fender looks purple. And it's kind of rare that I see it that color. It absolutely looks purple. Now when I come over here though, it changes to like a root beer color. So yeah, depending on the angle of the sun, that's how my paint job works. It turns different colors. It's supposed to have a dark cherry, a gold. It lights up really like a really bright gold color. Well, I'm going to take it down off the jack for now. I think I've done everything on the wheel that I can possibly do at this point, other than going way overboard with it, which, like I said, I'm not going to do. I just don't have the time and the resources to put into that kind of work. I like, like I said, I like my motorcycle to be clean, but it's not a show bike either. It's not like these bikes, that have the mirrors underneath them where you can't see one drop of oil or grease underneath there. No. When you ride the thing, it's going to get some wear and tear. It's just how it is. I wanted to take some time to talk about my lawnmower tractor for a little bit. This is a Husqvarna YTH 24K48. It has a 48-inch mower deck, 4-foot mower deck. The engine is a Kohler 24 horse. And currently I have about 555 hours on this thing. So I'm thinking that maybe in the spring I'm going to replace it. It's seen its share of wear and tear around here. I mean, I have 5.5 acres, and you'll see everything that I'm mowing and maintaining with it. This machine takes a lot of abuse. There's a lot of terrain. There's a lot of roots and you know, when I go down the driveway, it's hitting gravel and spitting out rocks. Um, so over the years that I've owned this one, I have had to do some maintenance on it to keep it up. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, but the size for me with the 4-foot mower deck, I'm not sure that going any bigger would serve me any justice. I mean, I would love to have a $25,000 Kubota or something like that, but I'm not sure that would be very practical. You know, a bigger machine is going to have more trouble negotiating, you know, under some of the tree branches, around some of the terrain, uh, going down my driveway, so this size mower is about right for this yard. Time consuming. I, it, I can easily spend a couple hours mowing and still not have it all done, so I break it up into a couple days. I usually do, you know, everything around the house here on day one. Uh, I might take another day to do everything down the driveway and out front, because that's a little more tricky, a little more terrain, and yeah, it takes a while. And then lastly, everything behind the and around the pond, back in the alley here, up on the hill if the hill needs mowed. The hill usually doesn't need mowed because you'll see it's all pine needles up there. But once in a while I'll have to go over that. Currently though, what I've been doing is not so much mowing but chopping up leaves. So you'll see the mower deck is covered with leaves, even though I just had the mower deck off earlier this week. Flipped it over, checked the blades, greased the spindles and everything, scraped it, the clippings out from underneath there, which I don't do very often, but I do. As far as sharpening the blades, I didn't sharpen them. They were still okay. They had some nicks in them, but I don't see putting the time and effort in trying to put an edge on them. And they say with mower blades you shouldn't, it's not like a knife. You don't want them razor blade sharp. And for all purposes, I mean, I just mowed this yesterday, and it looks like a golf green. I mean, it mowed nice. It didn't leave anything, stragglers or anything. It cut very nice. So, yeah. Now, like I said, I have had some issues with this over the years. I had to have the bracket on the mower deck welded one time because the bracket broke off on it. But like I said, it takes a lot of abuse. I'm always hitting roots, things with it. I'm not a guy that's going to stop and pick up every stick and twig in my yard, so I chop them up and they spit out the side. You know, unless it's a bigger branch that I'll have to drag off. But I'll run over sticks and branches with this thing, and it chops them right up, mulches them, throws them right out in shreds. So I'm not worried about that either. But when you do these leaves, it gets very dusty. So the air cleaner, I do pull the air cleaner out of there and clean it regularly, knock the dust off of it. Does have, you know, different height settings here, which I usually run it at 2-inch. But I also have these wheels set, you know, at the appropriate level too. So no matter how far you push this lever down, it's only going to go down as far as those wheels are going to ride on the ground as well. I have had to replace the belt on the mower deck twice. And the belt that's on there right now does have a big chunk, a nick out of it, but it still works, and it's been that way for over a year. So until it breaks, I think those are about a $70 belt too. They're not cheap, the mower belt. and I did replace the drive belt underneath the tractor because it was starting to slip, uh, especially when you were, trying to go up hills or something, and you'd have the pedal pushed and you were only barely creeping when you had it floored to full blast. So I went ahead and jacked the thing up and took the belly off and replaced the drive belt. And now it goes fine. It doesn't slip anymore. One thing I would probably would like to do is have some wheel weights in these back tires because they do have the turf tread on them. So they have limited traction in wet, muddy areas, and this thing gets stuck in the spring. It'll get stuck on a dime, and then I have to push it out, especially over here where it's kind of damp in the spring. I always get stuck there at least once a year, and it's a heavy machine to have to push. But I've had to do that numerous times. I keep the chute bungeed up here. See, I got a bungee strap here. So the chute's always pulled up like that. That way it throws the grass up and out instead of just shooting it down at the ground. I like the grass to be, spread evenly. You'll see kind of this area here where the leaves have been, the chopped up leaves have been dispersed evenly and not in a pile. I don't like leaving piles. My most recent problem was that my battery was being drained. I had replaced the battery this spring, so it's a brand new battery. But every time I came out to use the thing, the battery was dead. And I eventually realized that I had to replace the voltage regulator, which is right up underneath here. And once I took the shroud off, which wasn't a terribly bad job to do, the voltage regulator replaced very easily with just a plug that you pulled out, 2 bolts that you took off, put the new one on, plugged it back in, and I haven't had any problems with it since. It's been running great ever since. Starts right up now every time. One of the other problems I had started last year was that the bearing went out on this wheel. So you'll see here's the stock wheel that comes with the tractor. It's a little wider, and you'll notice that this wheel is thinner, and that's because I bought this one at Tractor Supply, and I think it was somewhere in the $20 range, where when I looked online this one was like in the $75 range. So yeah, I saved a little money and bought this one. But this is the second one that I put on there because I put one of these on this spring, and within a month or two of using it, the bearing blew out on it. So, cheap, I don't know, made in China or something. But so far, this one's holding up pretty good. But I did notice that the tread on these wears off very quickly. So it's actually a softer rubber, because look at this, it still has tread, lots of tread on it. And that's the stock original wheel. And this one that I just bought maybe a month ago already shows that the tread is wearing there. But it serves the purpose. It holds the thing up, and it steers and it mows okay with that. And I guess I'm a cheapskate. I just couldn't see paying $75 for a front wheel for the tractor. I lost the headlight shroud on this one. I think the headlights still work, but I'm not sure what happened to that. It might have got completely chopped up in the mower, but I just noticed it was missing one day, and I walked all around the yard and couldn't find any sign of it anywhere. So I don't know if it got, when, that thing will throw stuff sometimes 15, 20 feet. And it might have thrown it off into the woods somewhere. I don't know. Um, but I never did find it. I don't know where it is. Maybe one day it'll just show up somewhere. I'll just be walking around and see something shiny, and I'll reach down, pick it up, and there'll be the. And I looked online, and you could get a replacement for that, but it was, again, it was expensive, and I thought, I'm not spending money on that. So overall, I've been pretty satisfied with the Husqvarna. It does have cruise control, which is this lever here. So when you set the lever, you push the clutch in, and you set the lever where you want it at the speed you want, and then you release it, and it'll maintain that speed. So you don't have to push the pedals, because it has like a hydrostatic transmission. This pedal pushes it forward, and then when you push down on this, it goes in reverse. If you get up off the seat for any reason while the engine's running, it'll kill the motor, unless of course you set that parking brake. Now you can get off the tractor and the engine will keep running. Then to release the parking brake, you just push on that and it releases the brake. I did buy a clevis hitch for it, and I can put that on the back. There is a pinhole there where I can put the clevis in there, and that way I can use my chains over here if I have to drag something. I've dragged brush and some things with it. It does have limited traction when it comes to pulling stuff, but I mean, it's a heavy machine, so it does have some power when you need to do something that's a little heavier than what you can do by hand. It'll really make things easier. And then I also have this dump cart back here, which is an old wheel horse dump cart that I had from my dad. So, I mean, you can still see the wheel horse logo on there. So it's original, but it dumps. You can pull this lever and it'll dump the dirt out. So that's a pretty handy implement to have with it too, and it gets a lot of use, especially in the springtime. I've hauled firewood with that, among other things. One other issue that I had over a year ago was that the mice got in here and they chewed the spark plug wires. Well, to replace the spark plug wires, you have to take this engine shroud off, and that exposes the flywheel, the coils, and the wire. And on these, you can't just buy spark plug wires. You have the wire and the coil is all one piece. So I had to buy two coils with the because it's a two-cylinder, two coils with the two wires, and that wasn't cheap either. But the mice chewed them in half. It wouldn't even run anymore, so I had no choice. And then I sprayed the thing down with a mouse repellent. It's made by Tomcat. It's a mouse and rodent repellent. You can use one of those little, it's like a gallon jug, and it has like a battery operated spray wand on it, and it smells minty. And I spray it all over the motor compartment and everything underneath the tractor, and it's residual, so it stays on there. It's worked. It's kept the mice off of there, so I haven't had any mouse problems. This hillside here is one of the scariest ones to mow, and not so much up on the hill, but mowing along the edge of the pond here can get a little creepy. And I can weed eat it, but I like to get as close as I can with the tractor. And if I was to fall off that edge, it could be disastrous. I wouldn't want that to happen. But you'll see the edge here is kind of collapsed in some places. There's actually like a little cliff there. So you got to be careful getting too close to the edge. I always told Val, I said, don't mow around the pond. Leave it for me. Don't do it. Well, when I was at work one day, she decided that she was going to try to impress me and mow around the pond. And over on the other side there, she slid off the edge and almost had the tractor in the drink. Now, fortunately, only the back wheel went over the edge, and it was sitting kind of precariously, and she shut it off and left it, and my brother was able to come over and help get it back up on the ground again. And I think that kind of pretty much taught her a good lesson, and never again did she ever even attempt to mow around the pond here. Because even for me, it's kind of tricky. I get a little nervous sometimes, and I won't do it when it's wet. Only when it's dry, because you don't want to slide down this bank. Now, what about other models that I've had? I used to have a Craftsman mower, and it was, a bigger 20 horse. It had all-wheel steering, so it could turn around in a real short circle. The front and the rear wheels turned. That was I got its my wear and tear out of it. But I also had a Cub Cadet zero turn, and I couldn't mow this hill with it, because even on some of these lesser hills, if the grass was wet, it would slide down the hill. You don't have any front wheel steering with those. All you have is your back wheel braking for steering, and they don't do well on hills at all. And then, I don't mean to diss John Deere in any way. Some of you may have John Deere tractors. And I really don't have anything against them. But Val worked for a John Deere dealership, and she always told me, if you're going to buy a lawnmower, don't buy a John Deere. She said, just don't. Just trust me. She said, don't. So, I'll leave it at that. And you'll see mowing down the driveway is no easy chore either. There's a lot of lawn down here to be mowed. And you see, I have a gravel driveway, so the mower is always spitting gravel and picking up rocks, no matter how careful I am. And they're just, it's just like more pea-sized gravel, but still, it'll dull the blades over time. This side over here is the toughest one for me to mow because of the steep ditch line, and it's easy to slide down into that ditch and get stuck. So, and I mean, you can actually see where the tire was spinning. Because when all the weight goes over to one side, the upper rear tire tends to spin, and you really have to keep it moving, otherwise you're going to get stuck. But down here towards the culvert, it really drops, and you'll see I haven't even mowed close to the edge there, because I've slid down into that, and then you're stuck. And I actually had to go get the chain in my truck and hook a chain to it and yank it up out of there. So I try to stay away from there so I don't get stuck. But a lot of this, like that ditch line there, that I like to keep cleared out so the water can flow through there, I use the weed eater to keep that trimmed up. So in considering what I'm going to do in the spring to replace that Husqvarna, probably going to go with something almost identical, probably the same thing. I considered going with the little bigger deck, what's like a 52-inch deck, but I'm not real sure about that. It's a little bit bigger of a tractor, a little heavier, and that may just pose more problems for me down the road. So I'm thinking maybe I should just stick with what I have already, because I know it's tried and true. I know the Husqvarna has served me well. 550 hours, you're going to have stuff happen to it. It's a garden tractor, you know. They break. And mine takes a lot of abuse. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not going to switch up with any other models. Seems that Husqvarna are pretty common around here when you look at the market and see what's available. Yeah, they're pretty prevalent. So that's probably going to be my choice, and it's affordable too. You know, I probably in the $2,000-3,000 range for a mower, compared to a $25,000 Kubota. I can't pull the trigger on that. No way. Well, thanks, cats, for watching my video today. Hit me with a thumbs up. It helps to boost my ratings a little bit. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll continue to entertain you, keep you informed, take you on bike rides, tour the country, whatever. A little bit of everything here. Till next time, cats. I'll catch you all later.